All right, today we're going to talk about why the housing market is not going to collapse. Give you really the three main reasons. Now, there are a lot of reasons, but I'll give you the big three. Here we go. All right, guys, a lot of people try to predict when the housing market's going to collapse, when the best time to buy is. And it's really hard to do because there are a lot of factors. You can't just look at one variable and say, well, when this hits this number, housing's going to crash, or housing's going to correct, or this is going to happen. It's based on many factors. So I want to look at three huge factors right now and tell you why housing isn't going anywhere. It's definitely not going to collapse anytime soon, especially in an area like Boston and the surrounding areas. The first reason is inventory. Now, in order for there to be a housing crisis, typically there needs to be a lot of inventory. There needs to be fire sales, like in 2008, when a lot of people really had bad debt on homes. They were overextended in the amount that they could afford, and jobs started to go really bad, and people were over leveraged. People with bad credit were over leveraged. Right now, there just doesn't seem a way for more inventory to come on the market. Since 2008, the federal government has created new rules for lenders about who they can lend to and how much money they can lend to them based on their debt to income ratios, or DTI. I've talked to lenders and said, like, hey, are you giving out a lot of loans right now? Or since 2008, what have loans, how have they been different? The biggest piece of feedback I get back is that they have loaned to more people in the last 10 years than they have in all the other years combined, who have 700 or better credit scores. So in the last decade, we've seen some of the best buyers ever, and that's confirmed with government data as well. And on top of that, over 40% of homeowners in the last handful of years have either purchased or refinanced, and over 40% have a less than a 4% rate. So even if someone in that situation gets into a situation right now when rates are in the sevens, right now if they get in a situation where they're thinking about maybe downsizing to have a little bit extra cash, if they sell their $1 million home and they move into a $700,000 home that's much smaller and isn't as nice as a home, they're gonna have the same monthly payment. They're better off being house broke and getting by and spending every penny they can, having their house be the last thing they sell. So inventory is gonna be very hard to just magically start coming on the market with the rates and the type of ownership, the type of buyers we have, and the strength in their financial situations. Now, the second thing I want to talk about, which affects that first thing, are jobs. Now, there's been kind of mixed messages with jobs, and I have some interesting news to share with you. What's interesting, one thing I found out as I looked into data online, is jobs are actually doing better than I think a lot of people perceive. There's been increased jobs quarter after quarter. Jobs are doing really well, but what's interesting is a lot of big tech companies since COVID have done, and even in the recent last year, have done a lot of layoffs. So we see companies like Google, Facebook, we see these big tech companies that make the news, and it publishes a story when they've laid off 500 employees, but you go to your local mechanic shop or the local restaurant you go to, or any other areas, and there's signs saying $15 an hour, looking for workers, so there's actually a lot of job opportunity out there. And really what we're just hearing in the news are the tech companies. And what I learned from someone I spoke to who's pretty high up at one of those tech companies is that a lot of those companies, when they were built a long time ago, it's like building a ship. You got a lot of people to build the ship, and then once the ship's sailing, you don't really need everyone who built it, but you give them jobs, you have them hold the rope, you have them do the thing, and they're producing, so that's fine. But you start hearing words about recession, and before you hear words about recession, no one wants to be the cool tech startup company that starts laying people off left and right. You don't want to look bad in the news, so you just set sail, you keep going with everyone. But what happens is recession talk starts, the CEOs start looking around, start thinking about it, and then all of a sudden they hear that all the other tech companies are doing it, and they think, perfect, this is the time we jump in. We're not going to be a target, we're not going to be the eyeball in everyone's news. It's everyone's doing it because the economy's bad and the government made us do it. So one of the points he made is that, we've done a lot of layoffs, but really we're kind of sliding under the umbrella or the mirage of like, hey, the government's in bad shape, so we're laying people off. But he's like, really we've been overstaffed for a long time, and we've just been like sailing by because money's been really good, economy's been great, people are still spending, but now we fear that's coming back. So we're like, okay, it's time to do what we should have done a long time ago. So I think we're seeing that a lot of tech companies. But when you look at the overall number of jobs, it seems like there's continuing to be growth overall in the market. So jobs are really good. The third and final thing I hear people talk about is rates are so high, real estate's going to crash, rates are so high, it's going to go down. Now, real estate moves slower than rates do. And I think we could see real estate in certain areas at certain price points adjust. But what I've noticed is there always is still people that need to buy. And I've seen a lot of buyers out there at all different price points. And the reason that is, I think we haven't seen prices come down, is the typical biotech couple that I used to meet, maybe they were, we're looking in Cambridge, Somerville, Arlington, we're pre-approved for up to 1.2, but we're trying to maybe stay at 1.1. And now I'm meeting that same couple, hey, we met in biotech, we met here. And they're like, yeah, we're really trying to stay at $1 million. And the rate 7.2% instead of 4.5%. So we still have buyers just adjusting. They're all coming down. The 1.2s are now the ones, the 1.4s, the 1.2s, the $1 million buyers are looking at like 850 now. So we still, the prices aren't coming down as much as the people at each price point are shifting a little bit, with the prices maybe shifting a little bit too. So everyone's kind of adjusting. So I just don't think, could prices come down or not appreciate in the next year as much as maybe some people hope? Maybe, we don't know for sure, but none of that rates going up isn't going to just, it's not just a graph and rates go up, prices go down. It just doesn't happen that way. And if anything, what the Feds have told us, they've stuck with their guns on. They've told us we're gonna raise rates this year up to December, up to 8%. They've done that. What they're saying is next year, what's next is they're going to keep their eye on inflation. Hopefully it stables off. And then what they would do is bring them down a hair, bring rates down a hair, and then leave them there, see where things go and make their next move. So with the trajectory of where things are headed in 2024, with rates hopefully coming down a bit, and how the job market looks, inventory not being great, which I honestly wish was better. The only thing I can tell you is that if you look at each one of these data points, and I've looked at even more, you look at them all individually or you look at them as a whole, if you're waiting for a crash, you're waiting beyond 2024, because it is not coming then and it's not coming anytime soon.